is Melissa van Dijk and I'm a makeup artist, and in this video I'm going to show you 4 beautiful everyday eye makeup looks which I'm going to create with the Rimmel London Magnif'Eyes Spice Edition eyeshadow palette. And of course, if you have similar shadows at home or similar palettes at home, then you can use those two to create the different looks. And so with this video I also want to make sure that I'm using 2 very beginner friendly eye makeup looks, as well as then going into more advanced techniques and also using a little bit more shadows. And so I'm going to start off with the easiest one, which we are going to use one shade on the main lid area and one to help us blend the edges away. And for the first step, I'm going to start off with using a very big flat eyeshadow brush to cover up the area pretty quick and fast, and then stamping it on top before I'm going to blend it a little bit towards the crease with still the same brush. And so I'm going to dig into the 4th shade in the palette, making sure that I also have an even surface on the eyelid area, and then stamping the shadow. And so once you have applied the first shadow on the main lid area with the flat eyeshadow brush, we can move on to the next step, which is blending the edges away. And for that I'm also going to use the 2nd shadow in the palette, as this can help you to add a little bit more depth and color into the crease and above, but it also will help us at the same time to blend the edges away. And so once you're happy with how the edges are blended, as well as how far you brought the color up also above the crease, then this is already the eyeshadows that you can use to create the first eye makeup look. And now the only thing that's missing to open up the eye is a bit of mascara. And once you're done with the mascara, this is what the final look looks like. And it is such a simple eye makeup look, but it still will just talk for itself, and it is also easy to wear and prepare in the morning. Which also brings me now to the 2nd everyday eye makeup look, which we're also going to use 2 shadows, but we're going to apply them a little bit different. And I'm also going to dig into some red tones, as well as the 2nd shadow again, which has helped us to blend the edges in the previous one, so that we are still going to keep it a bit colorful, but very also everyday suitable. Starting off with the 6th shade in the palette, which is a beautiful red, and I'm also going to use a little bit more of a bigger crease brush for it, which I'm going to stamp towards the outer corner and also bringing it a little bit more to the midsection before moving on to the next shadow. And now once the shadow is on and you brought it from the outer corner towards the midsection, this is what we want, because now we can move on to the next step, which is applying the 2nd shadow from the palette also towards the inner corner and meld it with the red tone. Now you can use a flat eyeshadow brush for it. You can also use a crease brush like this, digging into the shadow and also bring it towards the red tone. And so this is what I'm going to do right now, and I'm starting off from the inner corner, and then this is also going to help me to blend the shadows into each other. And if you feel the need, you always can add a little bit more of the red tone towards the midsection as well, so that you have a smooth blending. And so once those 2 shadows are blended into each other, we now can move on to blending the edges. And for that I'm going to use the same blending brush that we used earlier for the first look. And you can, but you don't have to, dig into the 2nd lightest shade again, because this can help you with blending, or you just can use the brush on its own. And so once you're happy how you blended the edges away, as well as how it looks like, then the only thing that's missing is a little bit of mascara. And so once you're done with the 2nd everyday eye makeup look, you can see that we still kind of use the 2 shadows, like a little bit more of a red tone, but the technique on how you can use the shadows and also how you can apply them on the lid is a little bit different, but it still will look so gorgeous and very suitable. Which also brings me now to the third everyday eye makeup look, which is already more of an advanced eye makeup look, because we're going to use several shadows as well as the blending is a little bit more like on point because you're going to use so many shadows. Starting off with a shimmer shadow, which we are going to apply on the main lid area until you're reaching the crease. This can be done with using your finger or a flat eyeshadow brush, so this is also totally up to you. I'm going to start with my finger, and later on I'm also going to use a flat eyeshadow brush that can help me to reach the corners. And so once you have applied the shimmery shade on the main lid area until you're reaching the crease with the brush or with your fingers, we now can move on to the next step, which is blending the shadow a little bit further with the help of the second shade in the palette. I mean, with this shade, I do have to mention that this is a beautiful, like very subtle shade that can help you to blend any color. And that's why also I wanted to use this one as many times as possible, because I wanted to teach you that if you have lighter shadows in the palette or similar shadows that can help you with blending, then the blending will also look a little bit smoother. And so I'm going to use the same blending brush that I used earlier for it, digging into the same shadow and just start blending the edges away. And if you need to lift the outer corner right here because you can see that you drag down the shadow just a tiny bit too much, and it also depends on your eye shape, that for example if you have downturned eyes you tend to follow your lash line even though it goes downwards, but you want to make sure that your eyes are looking lifted, then you can take a brush or a sponge where you use your concealer or foundation with, and you can just erase this corner right here and give you a nice lift. And so once you're happy with the end result and you blended those two shadows into each other and you blended the edges away, we now can move on to the lower lash line. As for this one, I'm going to dig into the red tone, and I'm also going to use a very precise brush for it so that I can really get it on the lower lash line. You could also use a flat eyeshadow brush for it, as it is also thin enough to get on the lower lash line without any problems, but I'm also going to use this petite brush right here. And don't forget to blend those parts right here around the outer corner together. And so once you have applied it on the lower lash line and you connected it to the corners, then we can open up the eyes with a bit of mascara. And so here's the finished look. And with the third look, I have to say that I kept going into the red tones, but red is such a beautiful color if you are going to use it the correct way, and then it also won't be as intense, but everything comes beautifully together. And this brings me also to the last everyday eye makeup look, which I'm going to share with you. And I'm also going to use a little bit more of a different technique when it comes to mixing the shadows together so that you can also create a little bit more of a unique color, as well as adding depth to the crease, which is also the first step. And so I'm going to use the third last shade in the palette on a crease brush, and I'm really getting it through the crease as well as connecting it with the outer corner. Make sure that you're already blending the shadow a tiny bit so that there aren't that many harsh edges, because now for the next step we're going to add a lighter shade a little bit more above the crease, but as well as melting it with the darker shadow so that we are coming up with a unique shade. And for that one I'm going to use a crease brush as well as digging into the second shade again, which if you're using a lighter shade and a darker shade you can come up with beautiful colors. And with this one I'm going to use it to help us to blend the edges and at the same time creating a new color. And if you want to create a little bit more of a darker tone, then you always can add a little bit more of the darker shadow into the crease again and then use the blending brush again. And so once you have applied it and you're happy with the end result, we now can move on to the main lid area where we are going to apply a shimmery shade. And for that one you can use either a flat eyeshadow brush or your fingers, and I'm going to dig into the fifth shadow in the palette so that we can blend those two beautifully together from the main lid area to the shadow that we have already in the crease. And so once you have applied it on the main lid area and you blended it also a little bit more towards the crease shade, we now can move on to the last shadow, which is the first shade in the palette. And I'm going to use this one as a highlighter shade, which you can apply towards the inner corner as well as under the brow bone. And you can use a very petite brush for it, something like this, or you can also use your finger to help you. So whatever you're going to choose, place it towards the inner corner as well as under the brows. And so once you have placed those shadows, we now can move on to opening the eyes with a bit of mascara. And this is what the last and final everyday eye makeup look looks like. And I'm so happy how this turned out. And I have to say that this palette is such a beautiful and gorgeous palette, as well as how the shadows are blending. And this is such a universal palette, as every skin tone can play around with it and have fun with it and create beautiful and gorgeous makeup looks. Now I also do want to mention that I've created a video with using the same palette, just the difference is that I've used it for evening eye makeup looks, which you can also find right here. And I also do hope that you liked this video. If you did so, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and also share it, as this is an independent channel. Thank you so much for your support, and I will see you soon in the next one. Bye!